hello. Welcome to the Simply Together show today, the 4th of April. Can you believe it's April already?
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's just flown.
Yes. Exactly. It's just rushing ahead this year. So today we've got a lovely guest who I'm going to introduce in just a few minutes. But I'm on here hosting with Shelley at the minute. How you doing, Shelley?
I'm good. Just come back from the dog walk, and I think I've now worked out that some of the trees I'm actually allergic to. So I apologise if I start sneezing.
Oh, bless. Some of the trees.
It's the tree pollen now, and I never used to have hay fever with tree pollen, but this morning it has come out, and it shouldn't be, according to all my apps, that it's grass season. It should be tree season. So
wow. Okay.
So that I'm allergic to the dog or something.
No, you would have known that by now.
I would have done, yeah.
So today we have got our lovely guest, Britta. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how about your very good self?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Not too bad at all. I'm liking this lovely sunny weather. It's still a bit chilly, but I'm liking the sun. That's really nice out there. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about what you're doing. Tell us what a purposeful parenting and well-being practitioner is. Wow, that is a mouthful. So, but tell us about you.
Well, my name is Britta Ofori-Kuragu. And as you have said, I am a purposeful parenting and well-being practitioner. And what I do is support mothers to co-create a healthier, happier, and more prosperous life and future with their children. So I'll actually tell you a little bit about myself. I have 2 young children who are 9. And my son Prince has just turned 9. He's 9, and my daughter Verity is 6. She turned 6 last week. So we live in Deez, lovely part of the UK. And I actually launched my membership called the Purposeful Parenting Club last month. And the Purposeful Parenting Club encompasses a resource library for mothers, for them to have access to tools and resources to support them on their motherhood journey. And so I believe sometimes that it can be really lonely in terms of motherhood. And sometimes we just need that support. It comes with a community as well. And so I believe that I created something that I needed at the beginning of my own motherhood journey. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. And my 2 children, Prince and Verity, are actually 2 young entrepreneurial children as well. They each have a little enterprise centered around their unique interests, and they've been featured in the newspaper and online media and various outlets as well. So for me, it's about giving our children the platform and the opportunity to be able to express themselves and, the essence of who they are through creativity as well.
Definitely. So how did you get started then with your purposeful parenting?
That is a really good question. I kind of stumbled upon it and then I ran with it. What happened was when my son was probably about 4.5 years old, getting to the age of 5, I'll backtrack a little bit. My childhood wasn't the most pleasant. I experienced quite a fair bit of childhood adversity in terms of having an absent dad. And, my mother was a single mother and she went through so much stress. We fell into poverty as well when my dad left and all of that. So all of that kind of had an impact on me in terms of the struggles that we had. So I was also hit and yelled at a lot, which, typically is meant to be the traditional way of parenting. And when my son was about 4.5 years old, one day I was about to yell at him and I saw the fear in his eyes. So I froze and I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is I'm kind of like perpetuating
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
cycle. And I wanted, when I froze, I thought, how can I do things differently? You know, like being able to discipline him without completely losing my cool and scaring the most precious thing in my life, and, you know, filling him with so much fear. And that was when I chanced upon conscious parenting. And conscious parenting is basically a concept about, and a philosophy about being very intentional about the way we raise our children. And it encompasses the fact that we need to figure out why we behave the way we behave and how we respond the way we respond and react towards our children. A majority of the time is based on our own experiences, you know, and we end up perpetuating the cycle. So then I did a lot more research, dug more into it, and it kind of, I wouldn't say it took over my life, but it changed the trajectory of my life and my parenting. And so I realized that things like spending quality time with our children was important, connecting deeply with our children was really important, validating their feelings and emotions was quite important. So through that, I built a brilliant bond with my son. So one day, the way the enterprise thing came about was I decided, I identified that his love language was spending quality time together. So we decided we're going to do a craft together, and we agreed on soap making. So we bought all the ingredients, and he said, "Mommy, can we put a dinosaur in the soap?" And I'm thinking, what? Why? So I went with it anyway. We bought a tiny dinosaur toy and put it in the hard, you know, like the hard formed soap that we had created. And it turned out that we had created something amazing. We took it to church in February 2019, I believe it was. They did some crafty things at church and they washed their hands with it. And everybody was like, "This is amazing. Can we order some?" And that is how it came about.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that is how, you know, I purposeful parenting, because I realized that in addition to the conscious parenting philosophy and concept of being compassionate with ourselves as we raise our children, being more gentle with them, and with what I had discovered in terms of creativity, I believe that that had formed the framework of becoming a purposeful parent. So that's how it kind of started. And when my daughter Verity was born a few years later as well, I think by that time I was well into my journey of becoming a more intentional parent. So it was a lot easier with her. And her first present when she was 2 years old was a gorgeous black doll. And not long after, she named her baby Verity. So her first product was the baby Verity doll. We sourced a small bulk order of the dolls, and she sold it worldwide. So they both had Etsy shops, and before the pandemic, we actually used to set up pop-up shops, and times when we'll sell out some of the products. And when the pandemic hit, we went online and we created the Etsy shops, and through that, we've been able to serve customers across the world.
Fantastic. So what do you think parents need to know to be able to change that cycle? So one of the things that Veronica Ebanks says is we don't want to repeat the abuse. We need to change those cycles. So for those parents who have been brought up in that particular way, you know, that shouting at your children, hitting your children, that's the way to keep them in line, to discipline them. How do they make that change? What do they need to know?
That's a really good question. I think it starts with self-awareness, knowing that, yes, we may have been treated and disciplined, more like punished rather than disciplined in that way. It doesn't need to be like that, because when we look at our lives now as adults, for me, I can speak personally for myself, the way in which sometimes I was treated, I know affected my self-esteem. It affected my confidence. It affected my ability to manage and regulate my own emotions. That was why when my son was misbehaving, my automatic response was to shout at him. So then if something didn't click and I didn't develop that self-awareness to realize that, something needed to change and I needed to set the intention to do things differently, obviously the cycle would have been perpetuated as well. So it starts with knowing yourself, going back to your family of origin in terms of how your experiences were in your childhood, because our relationships with our primary caregivers, aka our parents, form the template for the kind of relationships we end up having with everybody and with our children as well. So getting to know yourself and understanding your story and your upbringing, I think is the first step towards being able to set the intention to do things differently.
Yeah. And I suppose it's to be able to set that intention, they need to know that they can change that. It doesn't have to continue that same way.
Exactly.
It can change.
Exactly. And it's not about perfection. Becoming a more gentle and conscious parenting isn't about perfection, because the thing is, we have been conditioned in a certain way, and the patterns in terms of our responses and all of that, our behaviors that we have learned, it takes a lot of healing and growth and evolution to be able to start doing things differently. So although I have come a long way in my journey, I still lose it from time to time. But then I need to sit with myself and say, how did this come about? And be compassionate with that little girl inside of me who's still there, and say, I have been triggered because of X, Y, Z, and I need to give myself abundant grace. And so for me, it's about repairing the relationship as well with our children. Even if we lose it, if they realize that they can trust us to come back to them and apologize, which is something that I think wasn't the norm, like apologizing to your child. Why would you ever do that? But if we go back and apologize and say, that wasn't how I wanted that to go. I'm sorry. I felt really upset by what you did, or this, that, and the other, and not putting the burden of how we feel and behave on them, but taking responsibility and saying, I'm trying to do better. How, let's talk about how we can do things differently. And then, holding space for how they feel as well. I think the beauty is in the repair. And it's not that we're going to be perfect. We can never, ever be perfect on this parenting journey. And it's not even about that. But when we create that environment where our children feel safe, they feel seen, they feel soothed, and over time they feel secure, then they can grow up feeling confident in the essence of who they are and feeling, having, a great sense of self-worth.
Wow. Like V says, that resonates with her, and most probably with a lot of people, because actually it's a part of a number of people's journey, how they've been brought up, the life that they have led, and how they've then moved on with having their own children and making some of those changes. So Dee said there's not a book that comes with being a parent. Do you know what? There's many books out there, but sometimes you need to just leave those books.
Exactly.
Actually have that journey for yourself.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of pressure on them. Also, support is needed all round, and it is.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know, I remember having my son and thinking, oh my God, I'm now a mum. And what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do this? And my mum didn't live nearby. She was on the end of the phone. So I would constantly ring. This is happening, that's happening. What do I do? What do I do? Because you can get those books and it gives you the basic knowledge, but every child is different.
Exactly.
Every child is different. So when you go to your parent groups and things like this, no child is the same. Everyone's got a different story to tell about their child.
That's true.
I've seen it a lot because I work with a charity that we look after autistic children, normally on the higher end of the scale. But currently, at the moment, we have our holiday club. And I was explaining it yesterday because we have visitors in, and it's a chance not only for the families to get together and to talk, but the children, you are looking after your own children, but you've got that extra pair of hands. There are our staff that are around. They're not looking after your child, but you can bond with your child and have other parents around in which you can ask those kind of questions. Because there's something, as you say, Cecile, there's something that's different with that these children have gone into, or the parents have gone into a normal parenting group that's all right, my child's pitted against your child, or my child's calling and my child's talking and this. And it's like, no. It's like I'm now worried more about my child, what's going on.
Yeah.
But then when you actually speak to someone that is another autistic mum, it's like fantastic. They've done X, Y, and Z. It's enough that there is that kind of like those help groups, but sometimes it can be they're only telling you because they've learnt from their mum and their mum and their mum.
That's so true. That's why I believe in being a parent to the child in front of you rather than comparing to other people, because then, it gets messy. It gets messy. And being able to give yourself abundant grace and giving your child abundant grace has to be all focused on the child that you have rather than the child that you wish you had based on somebody else's definition and somebody else's experiences. So I totally agree with you on that.
Because whilst you're wishing for that other child or wishing your child was like that child, you're kind of dismissing the child that you have that is there in front of you, and actually you're then not celebrating the things that your child does do, or so somebody said to me only a little while ago, about half an hour ago, comparison is the thief of joy.
Boy, that's so true.
I know. Don't you love that one? Comparison is the thief of joy. So you have, you as a parent, you have your child and that's your joy. Don't compare with anybody else.
Exactly.
Because you're then going to take away from the joy that you're getting from your own child.
Exactly.
So Dee wants to know, do you run workshops online or in person? Tell us about what you do.
That's a really good question. Thanks for that, Dee. At the moment, I do not run workshops, but I have been booked for some parenting groups to run masterclasses on various things in terms of breaking the cycle. Everything that I do now is centered on the membership, where I actually have created the resources. So for instance, one of the very first workshops that I run involved some international speakers and parent coaches on gentle and conscious parenting. That was called the Reparent Yourself While You Parent Your Child workshop. It was a really big one because as parents, we are learning and growing as well and raising ourselves just as we're raising our children, but sometimes we don't realize that. That's where the compassion comes in. And so, that workshop that I created, for instance, is within my membership platform. So all of the courses, I have courses that I have created regarding various subjects on parenting. They're in there as well. Plus, there are resources from other parent coaches and health and well-being experts as well. So I'll tell you a bit about the pillars within the membership so it gives people a better idea. So the first pillar is regarding health and well-being, because I know that as mothers, sometimes we overextend ourselves and we need to fill our cups up and let it overflow so we can show up for ourselves and our children in the ways that we actually want to show up for them. So the health and well-being aspect encompasses, being able to look after ourselves, our emotional and mental health and physical health as well. And then there is a pillar, like I mentioned before, on financial freedom. So in there, I create various content and resources, some external resources as well, on additional income streams that mothers can actually create, because I know how much financial insecurity and financial struggles can have an impact on our mental health and our ability to be the kind of parents that we actually want to be. It causes a whole lot of stress. So there is that aspect. And then there's another pillar, which is about conscious and intentional and gentle parenting. So that is the biggie. And so when it comes to disciplining your child, what are some of the things that you need to consider? When it comes to sibling conflict, what are some of the things that you need to think about? So there's a drop-down menu and tab that covers all of these things. And then finally, there's a tab for life purpose, because I think we all had a life as mothers. We have a life, we have our own ambitions and goals before the precious little ones come in. So sometimes that kind of sidetracks us from, the essence of who we are and the goals and ambitions that we have. So that is basically, that covers the fact that we can still dream and go after the things we want. So I mentioned about the tab about financial freedom. Under that as well, I share my journey of young entrepreneurship as well. And for me, I know that not everybody is born to become a business person, but there are some key skills that the school might not teach your child that will equip them for the future. So all the experiences that I have gathered from the things that I have done with Prince and Verity, they're all documented there. And I have created resources according to those experiences. So there's a vast, ever-growing library of resources available to moms for that. And then there is a warm Facebook community as well, which is optional. I know some people like to limit their social media use, so that's just optional, but it's in there where I go live and just connect with moms and see if there's anything I can support them with.
It sounds really good. We within the Simply Deez group, we know one or two young entrepreneurs, don't we, Shelley?
Yes, just a few.
So yeah, we are very, very, very big on promoting and supporting the young people that are getting out there and doing things. So, two things. Hold on 1 minute. So V said around being new parents. So yes, you have to take the brand new human home from the hospital and you're responsible for a life. It's scary. It is scary. It is scary. Because how do you know how to be a parent? Especially if you come from families and situations where parenting was done very differently to how you think you want to do it. So that can be a challenge, because you know that you don't want to raise them the way you were raised, but you then don't know how to do anything different.
Absolutely. And can I just chip in really quickly? Yeah. When it comes to doing things differently with our children, it's not because we think we're better than the previous generation or better than our parents. It's more about the fact that they did the best they could with what was available to them, the resources they had, the knowledge they had, and all of that. And we know differently now. So like Maya Angelou's grandma says, when you know better, you do better, kind of thing, along those lines.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think that's quite important, because for some people, they may struggle with that, because they may feel that, how they were raised, especially if they were raised by mum and mum was on their own. They may have that feeling that I'm not trying to do it better than my mum did. I'm just trying to do it differently to how my mum did. And like you said, a lot was done with what they had at the time. Exactly. If you've got something different now and you can do things differently, then then that's really good. But it's not about I'm better than that person.
Exactly. And the thing as well is the information and the knowledge available now, some of it wasn't available then. Now, all the research shows how hitting a child, constantly yell at them, actually affects the architecture of their brain. So, no wonder like mental health issues. And there's something called adverse childhood experiences, ACEs for short, and they did this research where they followed people throughout their lives and the kind of predisposition to illness that childhood adversity caused them. And you could tell that the hard, like the maltreatment and the harshness and the things they went through that were really tough, that caused them trauma, it predisposed them to various kinds of illnesses. So there is overwhelming research and evidence that's available now that probably wasn't available back then.
Okay, so the other question then is this just for mums?
That is a really good question. I have had a few dads actually ask me, is this just for moms? I have my experiences are centered around motherhood. So I'm not going to go around in circles. At the moment, it's for moms, and especially the community and the Facebook group is a safe space for moms. Mm-hmm. However, if dads want to access the resources, they definitely can. But my focus right now is about supporting moms, and especially more so the community that I have created.
Do you think then if you get, for example, more interest from dads, that you would then set up like a Facebook page for dads so that they have got that safe space for them as well?
I believe so. It's incredible that you have raised that. I have been thinking about it for the last few nights because I have some amazing fathers in my life, and I know, they send me messages and say, oh, thank you for sharing this and all of that. And I'm thinking, it feels like they need something as well.
Yeah.
So just like I have created the resource library for moms, I can, I'm contemplating creating that for dads as well. But it's all in the messaging. Right now, the message that I send out, although like when I create reels and videos on social media, sometimes I say parents and other times I say mothers. But when you go to, the page, the actual membership page for my club, everything on there, the content and the copy is geared towards mothers alone. I also offer some one-to-one support as well for parents, and for that I wouldn't discriminate and say I'm not going to support dads. So, but yeah, I am available to support parents in general, but I have experience as a mother, so.
So Dee is telling you, stop thinking, get to it.
Okay, I hear you, Dee. I hear you.
Because the world that we're in now, there are more single dads than obviously ever before, because that, for years, that was not the case. Being a single dad was more of a, an anomaly, really. You didn't see it at all. Whereas now, that is the situation. There are dads that are raising their children, and they need the help. They need the help just as much as mums do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you need to get on with that.
Yeah, I need to have a good think about how I'm going to do this. Yeah, certainly. Thank you for that nudge.
And maybe it's about getting some information or talking to dads so that you can then have that same kind of, not necessarily that same experience, but you're going to be able to understand where they're coming from.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If it's hard for mums, is it not harder for dads? Could be.
It is. The experiences are kind of different, though, in terms of the world we live in and fathers. Do you see what I mean? And sometimes I felt like I wouldn't be able to meet their needs in terms of their unique experiences. But then again, as well, I think about it from this angle where my dad was mostly absent, but the times when he was in my life, we had an absolutely fabulous relationship. So, dads need to know certain things they need to do to be able to support their children adequately and effectively. So yes, it is something that's been keeping me up at night, and I would definitely contemplate that.
Yeah, because if you think about it, that there are going to be dads who also want to change that cycle.
Yes.
And who may also want to then know and understand what purposeful parenting is, and may struggle to reach out if they don't think there's a space for them to reach out to.
That is so
So
true.
we're leaving it up to you.
Yes, thank you for that. You've just confirmed what I've been thinking through the night in the last few days, nights.
Yeah. Dee says exactly. See? Yeah.
Dee.
You've got to get on it. You've got to get on it, because it's both. It's both now. It's mums and dads.
That's so true. Yeah.
So what do you want to tell us? Just go over again what they can access on your Facebook page, or what it is that people can access before we finish.
Yes, so I have recently jumped on LinkedIn. I used to struggle to be omnipresent on social media because there are quite a few social media channels, but within the last 2 weeks I've kind of present in all of the social media channels, and I have been sharing content videos, that provides a lot of value to parents, just to give them an idea of what being a conscious, gentle, purposeful parenting is about. And also for them to feel supported in a way and heard, because sometimes, we feel like we're on this journey on our own. And so in terms of content that I create, I am available on all the channels. But in terms of resources that are available to really, really help parents, it is through the Purposeful Parenting Club, like I have mentioned, and I have provided the link to that. And it's only, when I launched it originally at the end of 2021, it was about £20 a month, but now it's $10 a month, which is like £7-8 a month, which is because I know families are struggling, and I don't want it to be a situation where the people who need access to the resources the most can't get access to the resources because of financial circumstances. So $10 a month, I think, is fair, because I want it to go global, and I want everybody from every corner of the world to be able to access it. So that's what you can find with me.
Fantastic. So Deez put brilliant conversation today. Thank you very much. I am sure this is going to help some of the parents during the holiday time and going forward. Because this can be a difficult time, because the kids are at home, everything is stressful, and people might then just have to go and have a look and see what it is that, what they can learn through purposeful parenting. I'd like that title: Purposeful Parenting and Wellbeing Practitioner.
That's right. I think I'm the only purposeful parenting and wellbeing practitioner that because I totally coined that term. And it's a culmination of all my education and experiences and everything all put together. So,
Fantastic. Thank you for coming on. We will continue to share your pages, your Linktree, your Instagram. We will keep sharing that so people can actually have a look. And just thank you for sharing that with us. It's been absolutely brilliant. Don't leave.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being
You are
such an incredible host. I appreciate it so much.
You are welcome. I'm handing over to Shelley because I think she's got some bits to share.
Just a few bits. We've got the Real Talk show on tonight with Simply Deez. I don't actually know who's going to be on. It's a surprise to me. But Dee's been she's not on the show today because she's scribbling around with her notepad and sorting it all out. So I don't know how long it will go on tonight, but it's from 7 o'clock till late. That's all we can actually then say. I know two of the things that we will be talking about is our next two events that are then coming up. We still have availability for exhibitors on both the events. So we've got the 20th of May Health and Wellbeing event, so Luton Irish Forum. 12 till 5, if I remember rightly. Was it 10 till 2? Oops. I think that's the one that's 10 till 2. Yes, so it's
10 till
free.
2.
10 till 2, yeah, because it's not in front of me. So it's free for anyone to come along. So if you want to be an exhibitor, send us an email. So we're looking for anything that's health, well-being for the whole of you. So any of the projects and bits and pieces, we're not really looking for people to sell stuff unless it is specifically health and well-being. And it's to cover the whole of you. We've done that once before, and we've had quite a lot of the exhibitors there were actually networking as well, and they've actually been working since that event, doing different projects. And finally, we can say that yes, the Black Bookcase, the Luton African Books, Arts and Crafts Festival, I think I got that all fully out, is back in person, back at the Sixth Form College on the 3rd of June. And I just needed to double check yesterday, but yes, that's going to be a free event too. I think we're going for about 70 exhibitors.
Wow.
So anything that if you come from like African Caribbean background, that you're an author, you're an entrepreneur. The last time that we did this in person was before lockdown. So we had 2 people that were launching their books on the day. We had other authors that were there. We had drummers, African drummers that were there. We had book publishers. We had book sellers. So those actual bookshops being there. Mosaics. There was people that were selling clothes as well as selling the materials. So yes, again, we have got items open for the exhibitors. Send us an email. Look on the actual page itself. There's a separate link. There's a form that you can fill in for that. Because if you're an author, we need to then know your details before you're in selling it at the Sixth Form College. So yes, so those are the 2 big things that we've then got then coming up that we're open still for exhibitors to come along, but we still then do need you to come along as visitors to come along to the show.
There's African drumming, craft fashion, there's jewellery, there's going to be a young people's hour showcasing the young ones. Because like I said to you, we love, showcasing young people from, small upwards. It's just absolutely fantastic because it's just seeing what they can do.
Yeah.
Where they're taking this. So yeah.
That's awesome. The possibilities are endless.
Yes, definitely. So that's us. We've got a lot coming up. We've got health and well-being. We've got the Black Bookcase. We've got something else coming up. Yes. Yes, we're going to be putting on a youth event as well. And at some point we might even get a holiday. I don't know. Have we got a month where we're not doing something? Maybe not.
I think there was a gap, but I'm thinking he's going to get filled.
I think our lovely Dee is looking to fill those gaps. So we'll see. But we've got plenty of things coming. Oh, no. So no, I'm presuming no, there isn't a gap.
There isn't a gap. I think, yeah.
It's not going to be no, we are going to get a holiday. It's going to be no, there isn't a gap. So to find out about all of these things, sign up to our newsletter. Go on to our pages, go on to the simplydeezeventscic and sign up to our newsletter. And then you'll know everything that's happening and what we've got going on. So yes, that is us for today. Thank you, Britta, for coming on. It's absolutely, fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And just keep us in the loop. Let us know what you're doing. And we will then just share that out with everybody else.
Yeah, so if you are watching on replay, keep making sure you're making the comments, because we do pass it on to the people afterwards as well. So.
Yes, let us know if you're watching on replay. And yeah. Oh, we're looking for volunteers and sponsors.
Always looking for volunteers.
We're always looking for volunteers and sponsors. So anybody got a couple of free hours that they can come and give us a hand on our event days? We're looking for sponsors as well. So just let us know if you can give us a hand, because actually these events are free. All that information you get. So just come and join us. Anything else before we finish, Shelley?
No, I think that's about it. I've already forgotten something, but
thanks to everybody for watching. We will be back again next week, as usual, Simply Together show at 12 o'clock. So we will see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.